Honestly, this might have been the hardest tier for me to kind of figure out. Hi guys, welcome back, and hello if you are new. I hope all of you are having a fantastic end of the year and that you all enjoyed my first part of the albums of 2023. As you can see, we've done a bit of a sort of remodel to Metal Tris HQ, and I've got a light at the back as well, some cool records. This is actually all of my records all in one place for the first time in a long time, which is actually really, really cool. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm carrying on the tradition of the albums of 2023. This is going to be from number 20 all the way up to 11. Honestly, this might have been the hardest tier for me to kind of figure out. There's been a hell of a lot of moving around, even when I'd finalised the actual amount of, I finalised the albums that were going to be in it. It was that order that was kind of like really causing me a bit of a headache. So yeah, I've agonized over this and I think I've got it just about right. So first up is Crownlands with Fearless. So this is a band I was absolutely not aware of until pretty much I would say April this year maybe. And then a friend of mine actually turned me onto this band called George, really lovely dude. So if you are missing Rush, then look no further to this absolutely fantastic band. They scratch that kind of prog itch, but they also have a bit of a hard rock edge as well. The songwriting I think is absolutely fantastic. They've got sort of multiple tracks which are a bit shorter, and then the album opens with what I think is pretty bold, as basically an 18-minute track, which reminded me very much of 2112 and all that sort of classic Rush material. And the thing is, obviously with Neil Peart not around, you know, I'm gutted that I never got to see the band live, but this very much scratches that kind of Rush itch for me. And you know, I think Crownlands are doing an absolutely fantastic job. They are, you know, bringing that classic idea of 70s prog into something of a contemporary sound, and I cannot wait to see what the band do next. After that, we have Ne Obliviscaris and Exile. I cannot believe it's been 5 years since Urn was released. The band returned with Exile, and I had an amazing chat with Tim Charles about this album, and Tim was telling me he felt very uninspired and, you know, kind of just didn't quite get that sort of vibe that he wanted to. And, you know, the result, when they kind of really pushed through and continued on with that, is, I think, fantastic. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you know, this is Ne Obliviscaris being a bit stagnant and whatnot, but I was kind of like, well, there's different things here for sure, but there's also the fact is that the band remained in a constant after 5 years of kind of, you know, no individual material being released. And I think, you know, that's a big testament to it. It's also Dan Preslin's final performance with the band, and he definitely goes out with a bang. It's really, really great album, and Misericord 1 and 2 I think might be my favourite sort of like suite that they've done since, I would say, like Devour Me, Colossus. So the band came off the Planetary Clairvoyance cycle, I would say pretty close to, you know, breaking point. They had released, you know, multiple albums every year in the lead up to that, and I think the break really, really did serve the band. And really, I think, you know, obviously it was the pandemic that was the big catalyst for that, but it allowed the band to become, you know, even more experimental in their songwriting and push the band's sound further. And on the Enduring Spirit, they incorporated even more kind of ideas that you would see in like maybe Cynic, Atheist, or Death. And I think really pushed it into the world of not just the extreme, but more kind of progressive and, you know, technical death metal as well. And whilst it is a very strong record, I do think that there's even more potential that we're going to see from Tomb Mold to come in the following iteration of whatever they might release. So this is another record that I didn't think would be ending up in this list, and that is Thy Art Is Murder's Godlike. Full disclosure, I received this promo in July, way before all of the controversy and all that sort of stuff and the drama happened with CJ, and it's very strange for me because I've listened to this so much that for me it sounds like it's CJ's record. I have the record which is behind me and that has CJ's vocals on it, but then obviously I know they released it with Tyler's vocals, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Personally, you know, I think that Godlike is the best Thy Art Is Murder record they've ever written. I think it's the most consistent. I think that, you know, there have been really good tracks in the past, like on Holy War and Dear Desolation and even Human Target. But I think in terms of a cohesive run of songs and a collection of an album, this is definitely Thy Art Is Murder's strongest effort. And I have to say, you know, considering he was called in at the 11th hour, Tyler has done a fantastic job, you know, recording these vocals. The album is streamlined and more cinematic, and I think really kind of appeals to Thy Art Is Murder's songwriting and, you know, kind of pushes that forward. And I'm very excited to see what the future is going to hold for this band. Now, another latecomer that we had to 2023 was the surprise release, which literally got delivered yesterday. It's Sunday today. Dream Unending and Worms Star Path. I mean, look at this thing. It looks so cool. It's literally, I would say, the most cosmic thing I've heard this year. For those who may not be familiar, Dream Unending and Worm are two, I would say, of 20 Buck Spin's big hitters. So what they basically did is came together to create a split, which is 2 tracks from Dream Unending and 3 from Worm. Honestly, I absolutely love this record. I think that Dream Unending's sound, this is actually the first time I've really enjoyed Dream Unending. That's another thing I have to mention actually, is that I thought the last album, I did try with it, but it just didn't quite land with me. But these songs are amazing. You know, I think they're really interesting. They've got little flurries of sort of avant-garde, a bit of jazz in there, heavy metal, death metal. There's also a lot of Opeth, I think, you know, in their sound, which I thought was really cool. And then you've got Worm, which in all honesty, I think is what brings this up to the level of, you know, album of the year material, because that stuff that they put together, Raven Blood, for example, was absolutely brilliant. It sounds like, you know, peak early Cradle of Filth, but also with that incredible shred section that reminded me of, like, you know, Death, Individual Thought Patterns, that sort of thing. But I think the best thing about this is that the fact that it enhances the good bits of Dream Unending and also the good bits of Worm by just kind of pivoting against each other, essentially. So yeah, it's been kind of a surprise and I wasn't kind of ready for that, but absolutely love Star Path. I'm not ashamed. I built this place, it's not a home. More like a cave. When no trace won't multiply. I turn away, 'cause in the end we always. So if underneath was the absolute abyss of darkness, then the above is very much stepping into the light. This is a record that builds on everything previously that the band have done, but instead of being a snarling, you know, mutated Tasmanian devil, instead, this record I think is more intelligent, it's more mature, it's more measured. It also sees another side of Code Orange, which is kind of the more alternative rock influences, which I think is interesting. You know, you can hear like Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, grungy sort of stuff, but also counterpointed with that hardcore and the sort of metallic hardcore that they've got. But it also does it in such a cinematic and beautiful way. I have to say, the videos and the overall sort of theme and brand of everything that Code Orange do really is a big thing for me. I think, you know, it really brings you into that sort of weird and wonderful world of Jamie Morgan. The above is Code Orange really kind of, you know, reaching that next step. And I think understanding that they can straddle in both worlds as well. You know, they can make accessible music, but they can also have that extreme idea that really makes them like no other band out there, I don't think. So ending 2022 in perhaps the best way my wife and I could have ever imagined was Fall Out Boy's cryptic teaser of something to do with love from the other side and pink seashells and lots of other weird things. And slowly but surely they were teasing and teasing and teasing until we got the single Love from the Other Side, which literally sounds like one of the best Fall Out Boy songs I've heard in years. And I have to say, as you can see, it's up there. Is it? No, yeah, up there. It's one of my favourite albums of the year, without a doubt. I think this is a return to form for Fall Out Boy. No, it's not a return to form. It's just a return to the more pop punk, rock-oriented side of the band that we saw on, Infinity on High, From Under the Cork Tree, and also Folie à Deux as well. They went back with Neil Avron as well, which, he was essential in creating those previous records. And I think they've just been able to channel something which is modern, but also throws back a little bit. So, those sort of like elder emos are still enjoying it, but also push their sound further forward. The album's very self-aware, it's very aware of its surroundings, and also, I think, looks at the pandemic and that sense of existential dread that everyone had, and just kind of how that all brings us together. But yeah, very much a surprise. I didn't expect us to have a Fall Out Boy album this year, and I'm very, very glad that we do, because I absolutely love it. And I think my favourite track on here has to be Heaven, Iowa. That is absolutely incredible. Did not think I would enjoy this record anywhere near as much as I did, and that is Metallica's 72 Seasons. I absolutely love this record. I did my Spotify Wrapped and it was up there at the top. And it's really, really weird because it's not actually that good. It's good, yes, but when you weigh it up against Master of Puppets and Justice for All, this band have made some of the best albums of all time. And I think overall this is quite bloated. There's a lot of extra fat on here that it didn't necessarily need. But for some reason, I love it. And I just keep listening to it. I've listened to it so many times this year. I've played guitar along to it. It's just one of those ones where I think they've just really nailed what that essence of Metallica is. Next up, we have Enslaved with Heimdall, and I absolutely love this record. They're exploring the territories that they first started kind of hinting at, I think, in Utgard, but they're really kind of going a bit more ham with it. I think there's even more of a sense of the esoteric and a very sort of like philosophical idea of, in terms of, understanding and our world, but also in the idea of our own mythology and how that's kind of come into play. And in many places, I think that, Heimdall is actually more progressive than Utgard. And, songs like Congelia on the surface may seem like you're just kind of hearing the same riff, but actually it's where the details, count. And they're slowly but surely changing this riff, but it's just kind of enveloping you all the time. And I know it might not have been as high up as Utgard was. I think it was my number 3 album of the year in 2020, or number 2, I can't quite remember. But it is absolutely brilliant, and I definitely am intrigued to see the next era of Enslaved and what they've got cooking, basically. But you know me, I love Enslaved. There's a reason that I've got, the vertebrae here. And last but not least, we come to number 11, which for me has been awarded Frozen Soul Glacial Domination. Following the fantastic Century Media debut of Crypt of Ice, the band have pretty much leveled up in every single capacity as far as I'm concerned on this record. Working alongside Matt Heafy, the band were able to push the experimental boundaries of what modern death metal can actually be, whilst also making sure that they create contemporary and also very accessible tracks. And really, I do think this is the tip of the iceberg, if you'll pardon the pun, with what we're going to be seeing from Frozen Soul. I love the fact that they really went for it. Anytime I was kind of stuck with what to listen to, I was like, Frozen Soul, cool. And it gets you in that mood, it riles you up, and it just does exactly what it says on the tin. And also, I have to say, you know, it's a big nod to the fact that they've got, you know, things like The Thing, Assimilator, you know, like all of that sort of stuff. The John Carpenter ideas with bringing in Ghost, I thought was really interesting as well. And kind of the nod to horror, I think, is a real big one for me. But that is so far my albums of the year. So I'll be doing one more video, and then that's pretty much it for the year. I will be taking the rest of the year off, we should say, and I'll be back in 2023. But until then, I've got one more video, and I'll also be mentioning some of the albums that I worked on that I liked, and also I reckon maybe some albums that were, you know, maybe not so metal, not so rock oriented, that also I really enjoyed. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be great if you could hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the video and the choices in the comments underneath me. I'd also like to hear your choices, because I actually really love going through all of them and listening to them and seeing what other people have chosen. So I will see you guys very, very soon for my final part of my albums of 2023. Take care, guys.
I'll carry you in my arms.